first, and then we'll
Come a little closer and lend me your ears. Don't worry, you keep yours while I keep mine.
In each episode, we'll dig into the major stories, uncover the truth, and retrieve gems from Yada's blog.
We'll discuss what's right, bark about what's wrong, wag our tails at the thrill of discovery, and take you on adventures through the exciting world we live in today. So, fasten your curiosity leash and get ready.
Right then, coming to you with another episode of the Yada's Vlog on a Blog. Tomorrow's news, disseminated today. Let's dive in.
Oh, I love the vlog on the vlog. It is so much fun. And here we are with a new contributor to the vlog on the vlog. Kevin, this is Noah. And
Yes,
we're
it
delighted
is.
to have you here. You know, I've got to
great
know
to be here.
Noah a bit from, I guess you came to knowledge of us through Kirk. Is that correct? Or did Kirk and you join up afterwards? So for everybody's sake, most people know who Kirk is. Kirk is one of the longest lived of the Covenant family. He and I came to know each other almost 20 years ago now, when he and his wife at the time watched a interview that I had done on a kind of a nutcases radio program, but it was that nutcase had an advantage for me, and that Noah he would carve out an hour to 3 hours. He would introduce me, and then he'd go take a nap. So he found that you ask the guy one question, he can talk for 3 hours, and so I did that, and probably did it every time that he felt sleepy and wanted to, I guess, that would fill the time. And that's when they heard me. So how did you come to know Yahweh and join up with us?
Sure. I was telling Kevin, it almost feels like it was yesterday. I remember it so vividly, but it was a while ago. So I would say around 2004, I can always gauge based on when my first daughter was born. So
Okay.
around 04, she was born in February, and I was driving up Highway 880 going to Hayward to do a night job. I was at the time a project engineer for heavy highway construction company, working for my dad.
Hayward,
And-
California.
Hayward,
outside of
California.
San
yeah.
Francisco.
Grew up in
Okay,
the Bay
yeah.
Area.
Yeah, okay.
Correct,
Outside of
yeah.
San Francisco. Hmm.
Driving up to do a job, and as many of the Covenant family were introduced to you, heard you on AM radio. There was no live streaming at that time or anything like that. I
No.
was plugged into AM radio. Had just started to become religious. Started joining a Lutheran church, getting to know the pastor, and all of a sudden, yanked right out of that. As soon as I heard you, I knew that wasn't for me. So
Bullet.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
were pretty
it was a bullet.
effective
It was a
at
gut punch. Yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty effective at denouncing the Christian New Testament, the myth of Jesus. We had that stuff down pat very early on, that we realized that there was no correlation of any kind between Yahweh, the God of the Torah, prophets, and Psalms, and the nutcases whose story is told and who wrote that New Testament. They are light and dark. They are good and evil. So we had that pretty well nailed at the beginning. So once you heard me begin to repudiate what was Christianity and speak on behalf of Yahweh, the God of the Torah, prophets, and Psalms, our Creator, that was enough for religion for you.
Oh yeah, I was done. Immediately went home. I was done. I went home, told my ex-wife, my wife at the time, that we're done. We're not.
Not going back there.
I can't. We're not going back to the church. She immediately went to the pastor, talked to him. He told her that I was in a cult, that she should leave me immediately. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
She ended up hanging
on this.
around.
This cult that you speak of here, did they have a secret clubhouse someplace? Because all cults have secret, like hangouts. They have like a cult island. Did that cult ever ask you to give up anything? ever ask you for a donation, ever ask you to
It
change
only
your
gave.
life, ever ask you to give
Yeah.
anything?
No.
In fact,
It gave
if
to
you
me.
had
Yeah.
if you had offered to give such cult anything, would that person even accepted?
No.
No. In
No.
fact, when you going back 22 years ago, you would not have even known my name, would you? I was operating anonymously.
Yep.
It's so odd
Well,
when they when people who are actually part of a cult, Christianity is a cult, conspiracies are all cults, try to accuse what we're doing as being cultish when we are doing everything in our power to say it's all about Yahweh. Pay attention to him and those that he deploys to speak for him. And if they ask you for anything, then they're not speaking for Yahweh. You know, no donations, no contributions, no secret handshake, no clubhouse, nothing. No, in fact, we don't even have any independent constitution or rules or bylaw. We got nothing other than the Torah, prophets, and Psalms. Yeah, pretty
no,
amazing.
It was a ridiculous claim. Yeah, it was a ridiculous claim. Obviously, it's just
So that was 22 years ago. And you're one of the then the oldest. You don't look like you could be old enough to have come into contact with our presentation of Yahweh 22 years ago.
I'm 51 now, or I'm turning 51 this year.
Okay.
And I was in my late 20s, so 29,
Wow.
something like that when I first heard
Okay.
you. So
Wow.
yeah, no, it was amazing. Also at the time, so she didn't last long. She left me. Obviously,
Yes.
she wasn't going to hang.
But
She wasn't going to hang around
better
with that.
better she leave you than you leave Yahweh.
Yeah, exactly. So she did hang around for a few years. We ended up having 3 children together.
Okay.
So she hung around probably 4 years, something like that, and then left. And so I've pretty much worked for my dad for a good portion of my life. So I worked under construction for my dad, and then he ended up doing some ranching in Alturas and wanted me to come up there and help him on the family ranch. So I came up and helped him on the ranch, and that's where I met my current wife, which is a gift from Yah. So
yes, I think God happens to like the occupation of ranching and shepherding and all that sort of thing. It really puts us in the right mindset, even if what we're ranching is chickens.
Yeah, we got those too. Yeah.
One wild
which drive me
turkey.
nuts. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so you've read most of the books up to this point.
Yeah, I've read most. I have not read all of them, but I've read most of them. I've read a lot, and yes, transformed our lives. I'm grateful, and I wouldn't know anything without Yada. So eternally grateful. And in regards to Kirk, we my wife and I had gone to Sacramento for a tournament, softball tournament for my daughter. And we reached out to him. It was during the time you were doing radio with Kirk, and we knew that he lived in Folsom, and so we reached out to him and then met up with him there in Folsom, and had a great dinner with him. There was some other Covenant family member there, and then we ended up inviting him. We ended up leaving the ranch and buying a small vineyard in Grants Pass, Oregon. And we invited Kirk up for Sukkah the first year we were here, and that was a wonderful Sukkah. And Kirk's been a great friend ever since. And I enjoy being friends with Kirk. He's a great man.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting too because of the ongoing claim that we have a cult here, which is the first thing you would do with a cult member is you try to bring them in, isolate them from everything else, then brainwash them with whatever your diatribe is. I actually didn't even know you, I don't think, and you may have a recollection that's different than mine, but until you and Kirk began to become friends, and you were at that time you already had bought and were developing your winery. Is when I think we began to communicate initially by email. Or was there much contact prior to that time?
I did not contact you. I did not reach out and have open conversations with you.
Mm-hmm.
I was just learning. I was immersed. I was
Mm-hmm.
reading, listening all the time. I did reach out one time, and I sent you an email regarding my. At the time, I was reading Prophet of Doom, and I had sent you an email, just a comment about Satan's army. It seemed obvious to me that was going to be Satan's army with, and assaulting Israel, and
it is,
and so that was the only communication you had. And then I reached out to you again when we bought the vineyard and asked for your approval to use Yashaya 5:1.
Yeah, I remember
on
that.
our labels, which we did. Yeah, yes. Which we did. And you gratefully, or you.
Yeah. You wanted to cite. You wanted to cite something.
So we ended up putting that on
in your label. Yeah. And I thought that was a great idea.
And that's reached. That translation has probably reached thousands of people, and it's a beautiful translation about a wonderful man, Dode. And so we're grateful that we had the chance to put that on the labels, and
but it's interesting. The reason I want to keep on going back to this is that the group now that is the most fixated on trying to demean us, and I mean demean us, demean Yada Yawa, demean me, has a website called the Cult of Craigwin, and the only way they attract people to it is they hashtag my name, because they got nothing to offer other than their vitriol, and every one of them was originally someone who had begun by reading the books and was part of the Yada Yawa covenant family. And because of one psychopath, they group, I don't know if it's 15 or 20 of them or 25 of them, there's not much more than that, but they have become very vocal in trying to undermine that which they once supported. And their approach is, they call it the Cult of Craigwin on Facebook. And as I say, it's actually a crime to use somebody else's name and hashtag it to denounce them. But that's nonetheless, breaking the law doesn't seem to be of much concern to them either. But the whole idea of a cult would mean that there would have to be some kind of an attempt, to isolate and to brainwash those who were part of it, and the second would be to gain from it either sex, power, or money, or the three ways that people gain through cults. And when you came to know us, I didn't. Oh, he just lost his internet. But when Noah came to know us, based upon his own testimony, there, we'd had no direct contact with each other. And our first actual contact, he wrote me one email regarding regarding Prophet of Doom, which I'd written a long time ago. And the next email is he's off doing a winery and very respectfully asking, can I use one of your translations on the wine bottle? So obviously, I'm not attempting to isolate Noah, nor anybody else who's ever been from the covenant. Never told them what they need to think or believe. My entire message is, this is what Yahweh is saying. This is the best way to understand it and apply it to our lives. You are responsible to him, not to me. I don't have a following. I'm not looking for a following. And not only don't I want anything from you, I will not accept anything from you. I'm just here to share what I have learned. That is my job, is to figure out everything we can be learned about what God said and to convey it as intelligently as possible. And what you do with it is really up to you, other than this idea. I'm not going to take anything from you. Just absolutely never going to ask. And you're never going to have the opportunity to give anything to me. Pretty much obliterates the whole argument that they have, doesn't it?
It does. The cult thing is thrown out there. It's an easy way for somebody to put somebody they don't want to deal with in a box. And so they can label you as a cult. They can package you up, and they can ship you off. And so they never have to deal with anything you say. Or in this case, this group is vitriol. They're I don't know much about them. I never really learned anything about this group, and I'm certainly glad I didn't. But yeah, they are able to package you up and try to tell people that they shouldn't listen to you by putting you in the cult box.
Virtually all of them came out of a conspiracy cult called Unpopular Truth, I think was the name of it, but some name like that. A guy who actually changed his name to lead his cult that tried to do the same thing they're doing, that is to claim that they had written what I had written, that claimed that they were the ones who had discovered this, then twisted it for cultish purposes. Larry Hendricks was the name of this individual. Almost all of them came out of that group, and they've returned to a cult. This one is in the veneration of a mother god. And the thing that is so easy to do today is to disparage somebody. I mean, look at Jews. They are every place, everywhere, all the time. They are being disparaged. They're being put, as you would say, in a box. The box never fits, ever. It's the nature of a conspiracy is that you hate, you're envious, you have a miserable life, you have no answers, your life has no value whatsoever. So what you do is you try to make yourself feel better by blaming somebody else for your own misery and your own ineptitude, which is the basis of all conspiracies, including this one of the mother goddesses and DP and D-Crud. This is their little cult to do that because they have miserable, unfulfilling lives. And what then transpires with the conspiratorial mindset is you see a dot on the wall and you make a religion out of that dot. This idea that in the eighth mashal, that there's a reference to a she, and the she it does a lot of good stuff. So that must be our mother god. When all the she is reference to the fact that chakma is a feminine noun in Hebrew, and it's talking about the value of the very thing they lack, which is wisdom. And then we will talk about the last word picture, the Mashal 31, which is profoundly important in what it does. It's transformational in the life of Dode as the firstborn son of God and his return to his father. And in it's clearly authored by someone who is taking a very humble approach to what's occurring. He recognizes that the star of that show, of what he's witnessing, what he's reporting, is a woman who who Dode accepts as his mother, not his birth mother, a mother who loves him more than anyone has ever loved him. And I am writing that story about what Dode is experiencing. And as he listens to my wife tell him about what he has done wrong, too much drinking, too much sex, too much thinking with the wrong head, and that he needs to learn to respect women and look inside in their head for brilliance as opposed to just physical beauty, and needs to realize that he's this very firstborn son of God and that this matters, and he needs to get his life in order. And so I write this and I acknowledge, rather than saying in that case, I would have been Boaz. But now under the name Ethan Haj Rocky, because I wrote it under that name, is Ethan Haj Rocky. Rather than say that's who I am and now overshadow my wife, I take the more modest approach. This discussion was about she and Dode. And so I just say, I'm her husband. It's like being FLOTUS, First Lady of the United States. You're yeah. Well, this would be like, okay, well, I'm her. Yeah, she's great. I'm her husband. Yeah. So I use the term in Hebrew for husband 3 times, which is Baal. And so, oh my God, he's claiming he must be Satan because, Baal is Satan. And you go, okay, Baal is like every Hebrew word. It has a positive and a dark side. It's like everything that Satan claims. He takes the things that are appropriate of God. Even Adonai, Lord, is a fine term. It's a term of respect. But he takes those terms and he corrupts them for his own use. Asher, to becoming Asherah, happens to be another of them. And so that is what he does. that is his purpose in doing that. And so he corrupted the term Baal, which is husband, to create a perspective on him that is other than the adversary, because that's what Satan does. He has to project an image of himself that is not adversarial, which is his title from God. But the proof that the term Baal has a good side is not only is it used very favorably in the 31st Mashal. And the woman who is saving Dode from himself has a Baal husband, not a god, not a false god that is there. It's used very positively. God, on 2 occasions, tells us emphatically that not only was he Baal to Israel, husband, but that he loved that role. And it was Israel that rejected him in that role. And so if you can't think it through and understand the big picture and be logical in your approach to words and reasonable, then you're going to be like those that have their little conspiratorial box, and they'll put little snippets in that conspiratorial box, and everything that proves that box is untrue, they will ignore. That's what we've got.
Yeah.
But they appeal to
that's the nature
people.
of cults. Yeah.
Yes. But these kinds of cults appeal to people because the majority of people are living miserable, unfulfilling lives, don't want to take responsibility for their lack of success, their lack of achievement, and need someone to blame for their misery. And that is how conspiratorial cults are all born. That's why there's so many that want to lash out and hate Jews. And so from our point of view, it's important that we experience that, because God has experienced that on behalf of his people, and God himself has experienced that for 6,000 years. So it's appropriate that we also experience it. Otherwise, we can't have any empathy. We can't speak from a position of knowing what God has had to endure.
Yep.
So that's my thoughts on it. So we're going to go ahead.
Oh no, I just it's a shame that there is a group of people that's all their focus is, right? Is they have no other intention other than just disparage, vitriol, just try to destroy everything. And I don't. Okay. It doesn't make any sense to me.
But Noah, if you spend time on X and on Facebook and social media, right? You've been exposed to it.
Not X, but definitely Facebook, and I've seen enough on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, X is just a worse version of Facebook. I left X and Facebook because what I found is that in the range of 80 to 90% of the feeds and the posts on X and Facebook were invalid. They were rude, they were racist, they were anti-Semitic, they were repulsively and ignorantly political, and they were over the top religious tripe. And that there was almost no correlation between what was being posted on X and on Facebook and reality, and that the whole thing was a really evil swamp. And so that's why I left those places. It's a horrible thing. But now, since that's the world's marketplace for opinions, and the overwhelming preponderance of people are conspiratorial, religious, and political, and really desperately lost, we shouldn't be surprised that we have one in our little backyard.
Yeah. It seems like infiltration is their MO. I just saw recently there was one that was trying to say things and pretending to be part of covenant, and they just flesh themselves out pretty quickly. So
yes, it's
can't stand that woman.
Yeah,
I think their little Facebook group has the wrong name. See, they would be okay if we are the We Hate Craig Wynn fan club. They would be okay with that.
Just own it. Just own it.
Absolutely.
Just own it. Just own it.
That is their. I mean, the folks that are in there they come from diverse backgrounds. They have diverse. They're not all like so-called mother goddess people. Their one singular mission is they just hate you. They don't agree with each other on anything other than the fact that they hate yada. I mean, that's
Yes. And that's a very good thing, by the way. Not for them,
yes.
but it is for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because look at those who spoke for Yahweh. They're all hated.
Yeah.
Always hated. Universally despised. And there's probably no better example than Moshe during his life. His own people tried to kill him multiple times. Moshe finally told God, you might as well kill me because these people are impossible. I want nothing to do with them. Get me out of this mess.
Yep.
And so speaking for Yahweh is as popular as Yahweh. And
Right.
he's not popular at all. And so, if you're going to do this job, you need to know that you have a target on your head and that virtually everyone that hears you is going to hate you. They're going to despise everything you have to say, and they're going to do everything they can to undermine you because you destroy everything they want to believe.
Yep.
So
Yep.
all it takes, the one thing that I would say they all have in common is a lack of reason. They all have to be, well, they have two things in common. They all have to be irrational so that they're not able to process information intelligently. And that would be true of all of them. But the other thing is they have huge holes in their lives. There's raging insecurities that cause them to be living unhappy and miserable lives. And the only thing that they know how to deal with that is to lash out and to blame someone else. And so, you have people on that group like this, the woman that you're talking about now. I don't know her from Adam. I've heard the name. I don't even think I could pronounce the name. And the two that preceded her and the three men who have all lashed out in the last year, I don't know any of them. I mean, I have no contact with any of them. I do not know these people. And yet they have made me the focus of their lives, hating me the focus of their life. I mean, that is a really weird thing to do when you make somebody that you don't even know, that has never done anything to you, never even had a direct conversation with you, and you want to make them the focus of your existence. Something deeply troubling about that.
It's scary. Yeah, it's scary. And you're right. That's how you know. That's how you know you walk with Yahweh. There's no lack of people that could care less about my family. I don't even. My dad labeled me a Jew, and pretty much was disgusted.
Good.
My mom. I don't have any contact with my mom. She could care less about her grandkids. She has no contact with my children. I mean, yeah, you know exactly. Yep.
Yes, that you fit when you're hated. And when I wrote Prophet of Doom and began the 5,000 to 10,000 hours of radio and television that I did and interviews on that book, almost every attack on me accused me of being Jewish. Everyone. And you say, I'd be delighted if I was a Yehud. Personally, I think it's a naming convention, and as the naming convention, and it means beloved of Yah, sign me up. I'm a Yehud. But why is that a response to 4,000 pages of evidence and analysis of the oldest Islamic texts? Please explain to me how you calling me a Jew as if you think that is your answers any of the 4,200 pages of analysis of the oldest Islamic text that I have used to prove that Allah is not a god and that Muhammad wasn't a prophet and that Islam is a terrorist manifesto. I mean, that isn't an answer.
Yeah. No, again, it's a box. For my dad, it was easy to label me as a Jew and then put me away. He never has to deal with me again. He can just. It doesn't have to think about what I'm telling him. He doesn't have to think about the fact that I'm not celebrating anything he's celebrating. That I've told him that they're all horrible, satanic, celebrations. He doesn't have to deal with any of that. He can continue to live his life how he wants.
Yeah. The great value of evidence and reason as you go from knowledge to understanding is that you eliminate the box always. God is not in a box anymore. He is not religious. He doesn't fit Christianity, Islam, or Judaism. He's liberated for who he is, and you understand him based upon what he has communicated to us. And even the boxes of Christianity and Judaism and Islam are no longer confinements, but they are this beacon of light that helps you understand what this thing is. And, you know, I tell all the people that are lashing out at Islam, don't lash out at Islam based upon some terrorist act someplace. You know, that's anecdotal. Come to understand what the Quran actually says, who Allah actually is, who Muhammad was, what they did, and understand the core of the religion. And then you will be able to predict everything that they will do and what the consequence is of lashing out at symptoms. So that is really the key to understanding, is opening everything up, including yourself. It's why I think Yahweh went to such lengths to say, all right, the writing anonymously as Yada was fine. You got you got 10 years of learning under your belt. Now we're going to open it up. Now you're going to be a named character in the story. I'm going to make you vulnerable, because it's by opening you up and making you vulnerable that we establish credibility, that we have empathy, that we can communicate both intellectually and emotionally who God is and what he's offering, what he's expecting in return. So this is all part of that process. And it's all part of the process to get comfortable with the realization that God is not interested in us being perfect. And thankfully not, because even he's not perfect. So therefore, none of us could have a relationship with him if perfect was required. And he would be bored out of his mind if it were, and he'd be embarrassed because he's not perfect and doesn't want to be perfect, and most certainly doesn't want to have a relationship with someone that's perfect, even if it were possible. And what he's interested in is us listening, thinking, responding, engaging in a way that is loyal and that is such that when we make a mistake, we get back up. When we err, we learn from it and are better off for it. Those are the kind of people you can trust, not the kind of people that all they have is, I'm going to throw stones at somebody. So this
and understanding it to me was transformative too. Understanding
it is. Yeah, it's transformative. It takes our whole existence to another level. It gives you a sense of peace, of comfort, of being here and having the camera on, the light on, the background on, and knowing that you're going to be exposed. Are you comfortable being exposed? This is who Noah is. You're happy to show that. Yeah. And where you've been over these last 24 years.
Yeah, and for me, I've been ridiculed so much walking with Yah that it does, nothing really bothers, nothing really phases me at this point anymore. I mean, my whole family's ridiculed me, friends have ridiculed me, so it's I wear it as a badge of honor. You know, as we talked about before, it's how you know you're with you.
Right. Dode ultimately had the best and the worst, and then the best relationship with Yah. There was times where he and Yah were, father and son. There are times when they weren't talking, and God was exceedingly angry at his son. And then they came back and they have become best friends and father and son again. But everyone in Dode's life, his wives, his sons, they all betrayed him. All of them. It's just the nature of this. You don't become set apart.
You don't become set apart with a fan club. You don't become set apart by being popular. It just doesn't happen. Right.
When we realized that the algorithms on X and Facebook were driven by things that we could never do and should never do, that being popular on those sites required of us something that was hostile to who we are. And we'd have to appeal to either the political, the religious, the conspiratorial, or the anti-Semitic, or just the opinionated dunderhead. And we'd have to use AI as if AI were a thoughtful, rational option to deceive. And when we said, that's not us, and we're not interested in doing that. And oh, by the way, Yahweh's not interested in being popular. So what are we doing here? There is no point to being here. And that's when Joe was able to create a website that replicated all of the benefits of social media with all of the benefits of a library. And we could be a community without having to endure that we realized, let's just go and be on our own. We'll open the doors. Everything is free. Everything is available on yadayada.com. We're not hiding from anybody. We're letting our light shine for all who will see it, but we are not going to promote it. And that hellstorm of social media. It's not about being popular. It's about being unpopular. And on social media, the last thing, God does not want you to defend yourself either. He's happy to defend you, but he doesn't want you to defend yourself. He doesn't want you to take all the critics on X, for example, and to try to fix them. When we have so many experiences with, the first one, of course, was when Adam and Chawa decided to ignore his advice and listen to Hasatan, and they did what God said don't do. And when they did that, you don't find God saying, let's talk this over. Let's see if we can come to an accommodation. We can make an arrangement with this. We can fix this so I can forgive you. Did you hear any of that coming from God?
No, I didn't hear any of that.
No, none of that. So when man becomes many, and the Nephilim are religious and political and vicious, and God says, I lament creating man because now that man has become many, he is absolutely awful. Do you find God saying, let's work out an accommodation? Maybe my approach isn't as good as it should be. Let's get a committee together and we'll talk this through and resolve it. How about some religious scriptures to fix this? How about I send in a Messiah and he can die for you? I mean, do you find God saying anything other than my goal is to obliterate them?
Yeah, wipe them out.
Yeah. My goal is to obliterate them.
We're leaving Mitzrayim and going into Israel, and hey, all the people we come across, I want you to talk nicely to them and see if we can, and teach them Torah and everything, so that we can all be together and come together on this one roof. No, it's that knock down the walls, kill them all, destroy their idols.
Right.
We ain't having it. Not in my house.
When the Israelites on the Exodus decided they would rally around and build the golden calf, when Moshe was up on Mount Choreb. What did God do to them? Did he say, let's talk it through? Maybe you misheard me. I'll make another attempt to convey who I am and what I want and what I think is inappropriate. Is that what we heard, or were they just gone?
Into the pit.
Into the pit. Okay, when the spies went into the land and they imagined seeing Nephilim, who had long gone by that time, and they said that it's a terrible place. We go in there, we're all going to die. Did God say, "Oh, come on, that's an exaggeration"? You have another glass of wine, you'll feel better about it, and we'll pump you back up and give you a good pep talk, and we'll work this out. Or do you say, I've already dragged your asses around the wilderness, and the last thing I want is another 40 years of this. But as for you, I can't work it out with you. So you're dead to me. And oh, by the way, you're going to be dead, period, almost immediately. If you're over 20, goodbye. You're dead. It's over. Dumb mistake.
Yahweh was done tolerating.
Yeah, right. 3 people, if you count Moshe, over 20 survived. Yep. There was another time when they decided, well, we're going to come after Moshe another time. We're going to threaten to kill him. We don't want any part of this. And Moshe's response that time was, okay, we're going to find out if you're right or if I'm right. And if you survive this, then you're right. If you don't, then I'm right. And the earth opened up and it swallowed them. No voice from heaven. No, let's talk it through, a little forgiveness. It's just one mistake. You'll figure it out. No, That's God's approach to all of this. And that is not what you do when you're trying to win friends and influence people. That's God's approach. Is you can take it or leave it, and I'm not going to accommodate your feelings.
And he's going to do it 7 years from now again, too.
Whoa, boy, yeah, we're going to go from 8 billion people down to less than 2,000 mortals when he's dealing with what's going to occur in the fulfillment of the last 3 Moedim. And again, there's many, many prophets who speak of the last 7 years and his final assault on God's people and Israel and the belligerents that are coming, as he says he's going to turn them to goo and incinerate them as he transforms the earth back into the conditions of Eden. There are lots of prophecies that pertain to that time. There isn't a single appeal apart from God's people who are the victims. And he says, shub for shub, it's time you come back home. You need to pay attention now. He's appealing to his own people, but of the belligerents, there's no appeal.
He's done with them.
Yep. He's done. Yeah, he's just done it. I think Christianity and Islam and Marxism, those 3 religions were just too much to bear. He says, if you're going to create Christianity where you rob my beloved son of every one of the accolades that I bestowed on him, you're going to steal every title that I gave him, and then you're going to rob him of his achievements, and you do that to my beloved son, Christians, you can go to hell, quite literally. And then as Satan creates Islam through Muhammad, and their primary prey as God's people is Jews, and that Allah claims that he is the God of the Torah. Yahweh says, I'm not going to fix that either. I have no interest in cleaning it up, no interest in reasoning with it, no interest in fixing it. They are all going to hell. And of the rabbinical types that are already dressed for their own funeral and have removed God's name, he's going to say the same thing to them. You obviously wanted nothing to do with me. I want nothing to do with you. And so you're off to Sheol as well. He even sent this mother goddess cult and Yashaya on the book of how to be a choder and the 57th chapter. He describes them to a T. In fact, describes the only people that fit what they have done pursuant to being left behind on Shabuah. And it says, I'm sending you to Sheol. There's no attempt to, you made a mistake. You want to think it through, I'll give you a second chance. No.
Interesting how they don't comment about that particular verse.
No, or the ones where I prove that there's no mother goddess, or that their manipulation of God's name was wrong, or anything else that they have protested, like their proof that God has a feminine, maternal side, and I took their passages and ripped them to shreds. They're not very fond of any of that, or God's comments when Yahweh says, all right, this is what they just did. I want you to read this and share this with my people because this is my answer to them. And he's done that a bunch of times. So,
well, they're just another religion. They're just picking and choosing what they want. Yeah.
Yes, and it's no
different.
Part of something that God wants very badly, just as your family, Noah, your ex-wife, and your family abandoned you for choosing Yahweh. Yahweh wants to make certain that he has created a filter for all of the people that don't belong forevermore in his family, who would muck up eternity. He wants them gone. And having malcontents like that cult, or the religions of Christianity, Islam, Judaism, or Marxism, they create an attraction to draw the people away who do not belong. And this is a way where God can create a filter, because he doesn't want a lot of people as part of his family. He wants good people as part of his family, but not a lot of people. It's definitely quality over quantity. Rather than God having to decide, I want you, I don't want you, he knows that Marxism, Christianity, Islam and Judaism, as well as anti-Semitic conspiracy cults, that they're all very effective at luring people away so that it becomes the individual's choice to have decided their own fate, that God doesn't even have to interact.
It's quite the
And
litmus test, isn't it?
it is. Yeah, it is. And it's a screening test. It's like building walls and having a net. And sometimes that net has to come really close to home to scoop up those who were exposed to the truth. Miriam is the classic example. She was once called a prophetess for leading the women's chorus in the Song of the Sea. And it wasn't even a year later that she's so full of herself. She's saying that she too speaks for God, and that and Yahweh said, "No, you don't." And when I choose to speak through someone, you know it, and they know it, and you're not it, and therefore I'm striking you with leprosy. It's as if your father spit in your face. You are estranged from this community. And then she became the model of divorce. So sometimes that net to filter away those who do not belong, who thought they were part of the covenant family, has to come very close to home. And Miriam is the perfect example. It's kind of why the rabbis love Miriam. They think God was wrong. You go to a Chabad site and you read about Miriam, what you will read is that God got it wrong. He was unfair to her, that she was right and criticizing Moshe's wife. You know, God never even mentioned the criticism of Moshe's wife. He knew that was nothing but a ploy, just as the mother goddesses criticized my wife. It's just a ploy. And so he never even mentioned it. He just said, we'll just deal with the main issue. No, you don't speak for me. And when you make that claim and it's not true, this is your fate. It's a powerful story. All of these are. And that's why understanding them and being drawn to explain them. I don't think, had it not been for God having to draw his scooper net very close to us to drag those people away, that we would have ever come to fully appreciate the treasures of Bamidbar, Numbers. But Numbers 5 and Numbers 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 19, and 20, they are extraordinary in their prophetic implications and some of the great teaching opportunities in the entirety of the Torah. And I don't think we would have come to appreciate how they apply to our lives and to life in the covenant family had it not been for the malcontents. It was malcontents that caused it.
Yeah, and I was Yahweh doesn't need to do very much. The religious are very good at outing themselves. They cannot help. They cannot help but out themselves because they just don't get along with Yahweh. So when you don't get along with Yahweh and you don't really like Yahweh, you tend to do religious stuff. And for example, what happened in the Exodus, they outed themselves and Yahweh. It was very easy for Yahweh.
Right. It was very easy. They outed themselves. And the same thing is true with Paul. When Paul created Christianity, Paul had been trained as a rabbi. He was argumentative against God. The rabbis have, because they call themselves rabbi, and that means I'm exalted, I'm great. So their idea is Satan's idea, where Satan calls himself Elion. In the 14th chapter of Isaiah, Satan actually craves the title Elion, which is the title that Yahweh gives his beloved son Dod. It means all things pertaining to the influence of God. And so the rabbis, by calling themselves rabbi, which means I'm great, I'm exalted, are trying to establish themselves over God, which is why they write the Talmud, and they call their Talmud Torah, is that they think that their arguments are more important and more influential than God's. It's why it's their laws that define what it is to be a Jew today, and why they are so aggressive in imposing their will. This is the mindset of the religious person. And it was rabbis in that Talmud style that trained Paul. Paul was actually the first person to ever write that he was a rabbi. And it's that argument where you twist God's statements, take them out of context, misrepresent them, come with a very narrow definition, which is the opposite of what God intended, and you run with that. That is what happened to create the New Testament. Paul's 14 letters were the first 14 books of the Christian New Testament, and the next three were written by Paul's proteges, his propagandists, Luke and Mark. And
in essence,
so
it's what's happened to the Old Testament, or what the Christians call the Old Testament, the Bible too. They've mistranslated, taken things out of context, rewritten it based on what they want. So they've done the whole thing. Yeah. They've done that to what they call the Old Testament, and they've done it perfectly in the New Testament.
Yeah, it's always take things out of context and misappropriate them to support their religion. If I were to Google, one of the AI search engines for almost any, I would say, because you can't remember all dates, I'm trying to trace the things that Dode did wrong. And because Dode did 10 things really, really wrong in his life. And I'm trying to trace how old he was when he did each of these things. And so, it's helpful to go to one of the search bars, and I use Brave. So whatever search, whichever of the AIs is embedded into Brave is the one that I use the most often. And it will give, a pretty decent summation of what is known and what isn't known. And then you can go and it'll cite the places you can go read and get more up to speed on that particular subject. And but it doesn't think. And then if you look at the links are all by Christian authors. And if you read any one of those links, they will tie everything to the mythical Jesus. Everything pertains to Jesus. And you just read that. How in the world did you get from this to that? There is no correlation from this to that. The one that I'm having the most fun with right at the moment is after delineating the 10 times that Dode was bad. And there was a period of life of Dode where it's not just that he and God were no longer talking. God was as infuriated with Dode as he was with the children of Israel during the Exodus. That's how bad it got. And so I'm wondering how the episode with Obed-Edom relates to Ethan Hawes Rocky that delivered the cure, which is the 89th Mizmor. Were they related? And Ethan Hawes Rocky, did he have a genealogy? Was he born as with a mommy and daddy, and grew up somewhere doing something? Where did he come from? And so I've already come to the conclusion that Obed-Edom, since he never had a conversation that we know of with Dode, Yahweh used him to show how he wanted to bring the Ark of the Covenant into Jerusalem, and to show Dode that you shouldn't have gotten mad at me when I made an example of the man that tried to interfere with the movement of the Ark into Jerusalem. That was a bad call for you, and I'm going to show you how I can have the Ark properly cared for and moved through this man. But I think Obed-Edom, while a real man, serves as nothing more than a symbol for what Yeshaya would write about in the 63rd chapter about the man from Edom saving many. So since he never talked with Dode, I just think the name is, he has a name which means worked for Adam. That's what the name means. Obed-Edom means I work for Adam, and Dode is Adam. So it works for Adam. And that name then becomes the man from Edom, and the end that saves many. So I think he's a guy that God says, I'm going to give him a name, and this is going to be his function, and it's going to be a prophetic metaphor, a harbinger of what I'm going to accomplish in the end, and it's going to explain why I've afforded this description to the Adam of Peraz, the man from Edom, in the end. So I think that explains that. But then you have Ethan Hawes Rocky. So if you look up the heritage of Ethan Hawes Rocky, what do you think you find? You ever curious as to whether or not he had a pedigree? Because all of the biblical scholars said he did. And when I Googled it, because I knew that I had seen it, it takes you to the Ethan Hawes Rocky's genealogy. And yet the AI couldn't figure out how ridiculous it was, in fact, impossible. And the none of the scholars have been able to figure it out. Do you know how old Ethan Hawes Rocky would have to be based upon just the genealogy that has an Ethan born to a Zeraki? He would have to have been 6 generations older than Dode. Fully 6 generations older than Dode, with each generation being a minimum of 20 years. But you have to go further than that because he's now brought in when Dode is 50, and he is known in Solomon's court, which means, oh, by the way, now he'd have to be 170. And oh, by the way, most of these fellows weren't having their first kid at 20, and most of these kids were not their firstborn. And when you're dealing with Obed-Edom, or maybe not Obed-Edom, when you're dealing with Boaz, who is in that genealogy on a parallel track, he was 80 when he gave birth to, guess who? Obed. Boaz's son is Obed, and Obed's son is Yeseh. And Yeseh's son is Dode. But he's on a parallel track, and it's 6 generations before Zeraki's brother is the genealogy that goes all the way to Dode. And you're looking at this and saying, oh, it is from Zeraki. And so you're looking at this and saying, no, not a prayer in the world that he's over 200 years old.
200, right.
When God says, no one's going to live past 120. No. And oh, by the way, the span of time that the Chronicles is detailing happens to be 1,000 years. This is from from Jacob becoming Yisrael and having his 12 sons to the point of Dode's later life would be 1,000 years, and it's presented as 7 generations. So no. So first of all, there's a lot left out of the Chronicles depiction because it was added very, very late. And second of all, that Ethan of Zeraki, there isn't one chance in a billion that he was that was the Ethan Ha'izraki that wrote the 89th Mizmor of Dode, late in Dode's life. None. And you just do the math. You follow the genealogies. You get a piece of paper and say, okay, this person begat that, and the brother of this person is the line here. And no, it's not even remotely possible. So you have to discard it and say, all right, Ethan Ha'izraki, he doesn't have a genealogy. And so in his case, he was absolutely inserted. He is like what Elia is going to be when Elia comes back as a witness. I think we're going to see both witnesses in 70, 80 years old. I think both of them would like to say, we'll come back at 30. Thank you very much. We're going to be chiseled. We're going to have a 6-pack. We're going to have big guns, we're going to be tall, dark, and handsome. I don't think that's how God's going to play it. It's just not his style.
No.
And so
and we don't as people, we don't take people like that seriously. I don't care how smart, how absolutely brilliant to the point and you are, and you look like a 30-year-old. I'm sorry, but just most people aren't going to take you seriously, right? What's this guy? What? No, I mean,
no light,
beard.
Yeah, you're going to claim
you can tell from
6
the covenant family that Yahweh's mostly interested in older.
Yes, right. Yeah, there are very few young people.
There's not too many young people.
Yes. Correct. Yes. Yesterday, Will O'Brien's son, who is a teenager, is a shining example of it's possible, and his son is the real deal. But it is very, very unique to be that. And the Shabua harvest is mature grain. So that's what we'd naturally see. But it isn't God's idea. When God says, I value people and I see in them what you do not. So God's not going to present the person as 6'4" and chiseled with beautiful hair and a striking physique. That is just not how He's going to present them. That's not God's style. And so I think that Ethan, just like the case will be with Elia, was inserted at somewhere between 70 and 80 years of age, mature. And I think that Ethan is the soul of Boaz. And I think that Boaz was sitting up there with Yah, watching his great-grandson screw up. And, he's already done this 3 times with Yah. And he was Chinook. Chinook was just fine. I think they had a grand time. And the 365, Yahweh took Chinook the last time, and he reinserted him as Noach. That was a tough damn job. And that was a tough job. That was a long duty stay, and building that ark. You've built things. You were in construction, Noah. I want to tell you, building that ark without major equipment and without a large team of people, that was no easy job. And he had to stay on that job for, when he started the ark at he was 500 years old I guess he was 500 years old when the flood came, but he would have begun the ark much earlier than that, and that's just no easy job. And so I'm sure
he had to
there's
be
a lot
working
of
on that for hundreds of years.
Yeah, there had to be lots of smashed thumbs and splinters and stubbed toes and lots of times that he was mocked. Boy, would he ever have been mocked. Oh. And so, I'm sure, and then, he comes back again as after the Noach experience. And Noach lives all the way to the affirmation of the covenant and is one of the witnesses on Mount Moriah when Abraham and Ishak are going up. That was his last year. I think that Noach was with Shem when God had cheeseburgers with Sarah and with Abraham. And that was a long life, and he gets his reprieve. He's brought up to Shamaim, and he's not redeployed until Midod. And there is every possibility that Midod was just like Michael and Gabriel, inserted at a certain age, therefore the testimony, and gonzo. A real possibility that's the case. Boaz had a life. Boaz grew up to be the poobah of Bethlehem, the heartland and the breadbasket of an emerging Yisrael, even before it was really a nation. And that's when he met Ruth and became the ultimate covenant love story. But I think he had a full life, and I'm sure that was a really, really good life. And everything we know about that life, that was a really good life. And so I'm at this point, just 3 generations before Dod is born, and probably just a generation before he's born is when Boaz checks out of that life. And so he's been up there for a number of years with Yahweh. They're all hanging up. They're watching what happens. And they're looking at each other and saying, I know. You want me to go back down again and fix this, don't you? But look at the size of the mess now you want me to go down and fix. You sure about this? This is a really big mess the two of you have made this time. This is a big damn ask. All right. I love the kid too. I've known him for a long time too. I'm in it. And we're in it to win it. We're going to go down, and I'll fix it.
And everything depends on it.
Yeah, everything depends on it. I get the same deal. Ruth comes back with me, and we'll go down and fix it. But we're not going to do the whole thing of you're going to be born of a mother, and you're going to live till 70 years old, and you're going to be somebody that no one's ever seen, and then you're going to waltz into the palace one day and say, kid, I got a library for you, and I got a song that I wrote with Yahweh for you. And that ain't going to happen. Come on. So let's not pretend. Let's go in and get this job done. I'm ready to go. Deploy me. And I think that Ethan Hawes-Rocky as Boaz, so the soul of Boaz, which was the soul of Chinook, which was the soul of Noach, was deployed, probably appearing some 70 years of age, maybe 80. And he walked immediately into Dod's presence, but first he let Ruth speak. And the 31st word picture, Mashal, is me writing what occurred. I'm a stenographer. That's why I refer to myself as Baal, the husband. I'm just Flotus, the guy off to the side. I'm writing what I'm witnessing. And she gets his attention and becomes the first parent that he has ever experienced in his life. And she's pretty good at it because she gave birth to the soul that became Dod as Noach's wife, because Dod was Shem.
She was the setup. She set him up.
She was the setup. She did a marvelous job, and I'm sitting off to the side and I'm writing down what all that was said. And then I say thank you very much, and I've said I've come bearing a gift for you. You don't know who I am, but I'm going to introduce myself to you. You would know me as Chinook because you've read the Torah. You would know me as Noach because that's an important story in the Torah. You might recall that I was with you as my Dod. That would have been 400 years ago. But you would know me best of all as your great-grandfather. I am Boaz. But I'm not just your great-grandfather, son. I'm also going to be your father. Because this was not your first life, and this will not be your last life. And so you're looking at your mother. That's who you have just listened to. You would know her as Ruth. But she has other names too. You will also know her as Leah. She is your Amma, and you know all about her because God told you exactly who she was. So now I'm here to tell you who I am. I'm your father. And you didn't exactly win the father lottery in this last life. Yushay was a jerk. Your mother, you classified her as a whore. Well, that puts you in a position where all the bad things you have done, and I'm going to itemize them. Here's the 10. This is the 10 worst things you have done in your life up to this point. And you've angered God to the point that he won't even talk to you now. I've been sent down to rectify this situation, and I'm not leaving until it's rectified. So I have been here for a matter of a month, kind of watching all this transpire. And I have written these mashal. They're called word pictures. People are going to call them proverbs going forward. They are the library that I'm giving you for you to come to understand what it's about to be the firstborn son of Yahweh. All of these are written for that intent. I'm giving them to you as the guidebook on how to actually survive and perform and be productive so that you know who you are and what you're about as the firstborn son of God. This is your library. Welcome to it. It's about 40 pages, which is about 4 days' work for me. At the pace that I write, and that I have proven that I write over the past 25 years, that's 4 days' work for me. It's 40 pages. I'm giving you the library, son. You need this badly. Now, I've co-authored this with Yahweh. I've just come from him. You may recall him. He was the God that anointed you a long time ago that you are now lashing out at, that won't even speak to you because you've been such a little snit. he has not given up on you. So it's my job to get you back into that relationship. So I'm going to read it to you, and I'm going to leave it with you. And I'm going to hang with you the next 10 years of your life, son. And you're going to grow up. And you're going to get your act together. And guess what? You're going to be a prophet. Every one of those Mizmor, the songs that Dode wrote, they were written the last 10 years of his life. And we worked on them together. We taught him how to write. He wrote them all at that time. And he left in the mindset where he could serve in the Passover as the Passover lamb in the next life. Ethan Haas Rocky, he was a full-on adult insert, just like Yada and Elia are going to be in 2030 on Passover when they arrive. That's the conclusion that I have in studying the story. And, you know, the beauty of studying Yah's testimony, Noah, and you've been with me now for 22 years, so you have certainly witnessed this, is that you read, you think, you make the connections to understand, and you share what you have learned. And if you need to refine that going forward, you do. But you share what you've come to know, and you explain it, and you lay it out, and you let it simmer among the covenant family. And in this particular one, I came to this conclusion 15 minutes before the show began, maybe an hour.
From farm to table, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But you tell me where this one doesn't resonate with everything that we know to be true about how God operates.
No, it does. And Dode was in such dire need of immediate training, of immediate reinforcement. It was immediate. Yahweh wasn't going to wait. He wasn't going to wait for years.
No,
for this to happen.
No.
It was a need.
Waiting was doing no good, Noah, because when you look at and you create this list, this was the thing that was an eye opener for me. I began with Dode's first mistake, which was when he began to run from Saul as opposed to standing his ground, recognizing that Saul could have taken every army in the world and come against Dode, and Dode was not going to be injured. God's not going to let it happen. And so, you know, when I wrote my books against Islam and I received thousands of death threats, I realized there's just no reason to duck. There's no reason to be concerned. You don't need a gun. You don't need to go in hiding. You don't need to have an alternative. You don't need to do any of that stuff. You're going to stand up for God and do what he wants us to do. You're set. So Dode should have known that. All right. So that was but God did, and Dode did speak together. They communicated together during his 20s when he was on the run. You know, from about 20 to 30 was when this was happening. There were times, however, towards the end of it, where Dode went crazy, dude. And he actually started drooling on his beard and scratching at doors and pretending to be insane, and may have actually gone over the edge occasionally and made himself a vassal of a Philistine. It got to be bad. But, you know, that wasn't the end of it. Yeah, right after he became king, he's still down there in Hebron, and the Philistines have taken over Bethlehem. And he sends his best, strongest warriors, his most Gabor, down into Bethlehem to give him a damn drink of water because he missed the taste of it, to run that gauntlet. And God says, you spill that out on the ground because that's blood. And so they're not doing good at this time. And it just gets worse every move. And then we read that he comes from Hebron into Jerusalem, and he already has 10 concubines and 7 wives. And we're told he took a bunch more. This is just not healthy. God didn't give a hoot. In fact, even God says, if you wanted more wives and concubines, I'd have given them to you. But I'm here to tell you, if you need if 17 wives and concubines isn't scratching your itch, then you've got an itch that isn't going to be ever scratched by having more, and more is going to make it worse, not better, because you're never going to respect women or what the value of a woman if you think it takes 17 to scratch your, and you can't even get satisfaction from 17. You ain't going to get satisfaction from 70.
It seems like classic depression symptoms, but like you said, without adversity, we don't grow, right? And so
right,
this might have all come way too easy for Dode up to this point. Now I acknowledge, he was chased by Saul, but like you said, but
I'm not so sure it was easy for him when he became king, and of course that's the next episode is Bathsheba. And by that time, he was hedonistic, he was a sluggard, and he was a drunkard. He had really tumbled into, well, I'm king. I got the big palace. I can send my boys out to fight, and while they're out fighting, I can nap during the day and be a voyeur at night and steal their wives. That was really, really bad. So it wasn't that things were coming easy to him. It's this that he fell prey to what so many fall prey to when they have absolute power in their realm. Was not good, and I think that Dode's trouble and not being able to stand up to King Saul, and the fact that King Saul wanted to kill him, and then all of these things that happened subsequently, was that he did not have a mother and father. And just because you have a birth mother, because you come through a birth canal, doesn't mean that you have a mother. He spoke of the unnamed woman that was his mother as she was a whore. And we know that Jesse was a jerk. He had no value whatsoever. He abandoned his son. And thank God, because he would have been a horrible father. So Dode didn't have the counsel or love or support or nurturing or guidance or the example in his life of a mother and father. So he never came to respect women. He had no idea how to be a father. He was a crappy father, horrible husband. He didn't understand those roles, and every relationship he had with a woman turned out to be terrible. So I think it was the fact that he was not in the kind of covenant relationship that Yahweh envisions, where we do need the help, support, guidance, and the exemplary model of a mother and father. And so that's why he fell. And then, so the Bathsheba thing is just tragic, because not only did he steal another man's wife while he's being a drunkard, a hedonist, and a sluggard, he then has her husband, who was a very good man, named the Light of Yah, murdered. And then he takes the commander of his forces and brings him in, so he is complicit in the murder. And then he takes no responsibility for it. And so Nathan goes in and has a story that he reports from God about how disgusting a wealthy man who of power is to another good man. And he tells him that story, and it's heartbreaking when you read that story. And Dode says, "Oh, that man, he should be punished and 7 times retribution and killed." And Nathan just says, "Yahweh wants you to know you are that man." And everybody believes that the 51st Psalm is Dode's apology and Yahweh's forgiveness, but it's no such thing. It's exactly the opposite. Dode blames Yahweh. It's the worst thing I've ever read is the 51st Mizmor, properly translated out of Hebrew, recognizing the stems and the moods and the conjugations. Now we're posting a grammar page on the site, and it's one of the things that many who have been with me the longest and read the books come to realize is that one of the things that separates what we do from everyone else is we pay attention to the stems, the moods, and the conjugations, so that you can actually understand the intent of what's being conveyed. And when you do that, the 51st Mashal is miserable. And so it's really bad. And then it gets worse. Then, his eldest daughter is raped by his eldest son, and he does nothing to solve the problem. And so Absalom, his third-born son, goes and kills his firstborn son, and he doesn't do anything to solve that. And then Absalom goes to Hebron and starts leading a coup against him, and it simmers up after 4 years. And Dode doesn't even have the conviction or the courage, or doesn't have the character anymore to stand up. He flees Jerusalem. He leaves his 10 concubine girlfriends behind to fend for themselves. He's just a weak man running, not defending anything. And, that's horrible. And then when God is really upset, and he sends Joab to talk to send to him. And, Joab reads the right act. And Joab is the same man that he had arranged the death of Uriah, the husband of Bathsheba. And, he's saying, if you don't sober up and wake up and stop crying, you're going to lose everything. And, you have a role to play, and you need to figure out how to play it. Well, God then expresses himself, and he says, listen, I'm absolutely disgusted with Dode. My vitriol towards Dode is unimaginably high. And Dode's response to that was, then I'll defend myself. And he says, I want a census for how many Israelites can bear arms. I'm going to do the defending here. I'm in charge. I don't need to take that crap from my God. I'll do it. And so God sends another prophet, Gad, to say, I'll tell you what, pal, you've really gotten way too big for your britches. God's disgusted with you. He's going to give you 3 options. You can take it on the chin, and you can live on the run for a year. And, be inconvenienced. But you need to be inconvenienced. You need to get your act together. I need to do with you what I did 3,000 years at that time, and kick you out of the this garden palace of life of leisure. So you're having to fend on yourself. I'm going to give you time out where you can go figure it out. That's option number 1. The other 2 options, I'm going to put a famine on the land that you plagued, or we're going to actually have a plague. Your choice. Pick one. And rather than being inconvenienced and having to grow up, he picked the plague, and thousands of Israelites died. And at this point, that's where we were when Yahweh and Boaz were sitting side by side, looking down on this and saying, oh my God, this is a real mess. I suppose you want me to go down now and fix it, don't you? Okay, well, if I'm going to go down and fix this, then I've got to come bearing arms. And my arms have always been words. So we're going to need some words wielded wisely here, God. What do you recommend? And that's when we wrote the 89th Mizmor, and that's when we came down with it. And it's why every time I read it, I'm in tears over it. And that was God's answer. And he sent him down with the 89th Mizmor. And as soon as we got there, we wrote the library. Writing libraries is something that
you had Leah with you.
Pardon?
Yeah.
I had Leah with me. Yeah, I had Leah with me.
He wasn't ready. He wasn't ready for that.
Yeah, known at that time as Ruth. But yes, absolutely. That's why when I see the song we played last week on the Ruth song with Boaz, man, I don't know if you saw me twice after that song. I've got tears just rolling down my face. That's really hits home. It's emotional.
That hits home. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a powerful message. Yeah.
And so there we are. That is my. I think that's how it all played out, and I think that the reason I earned Dode's trust, the first person that he actually listened to, because he didn't listen to Joab, he didn't listen to Nathan, he didn't listen. Yahweh wasn't talking to him, and didn't listen to Gad. And so he sends me and a 70 or 80-year-old man with a sheet of paper. And while I was there, I took 4 days out and I wrote the mashal. I think I could have done a better job if I had 8 days, but we did what we could do. and I handed them to him, and I said, I'm going to read now the 89th Mizmor to you. And we're going to read it over and over again until you cry as much as I cry when I read this thing. And I think what he told him is exactly what's in the 89th Mizmor. That this is not our last go together. This is what you're going to do. And when you do this, I'm going to be with you. Yeah, you're not going to be crucified alone. If I can do it as an old man, you can do it. And you're not going into hell either by yourself. I'm going with you.
It's hard to imagine a state of a man that had such a close relationship with Yahweh in that state of despair.
Yeah. At that point, you're going to do, at that point, you're coming back with full knowledge. It's one of the things you talked about at the beginning of this program is if you're considered as an adult, then you're coming back with full knowledge of where you've just come from. When Elia and I enter Jerusalem and stand atop the Temple Mount at 70 years old, we're coming back with full knowledge of everything we've experienced in Shamaim and with Yahweh, and we're going to dish it out to the extent that people can process it. And we're talking 7 dimensions. They're in 3. We have to dumb it down, but there's no learning curve at that point. There was no learning curve with Ethan Harzraki. He came back with full knowledge. And with full knowledge, he's also in the 7th dimension. He knew exactly where this was going to go, and that he could say, just as the 89th says, that it's Ethan that takes down Rahab. It's Ethan that wears away the aggravating nature of Yisrael as the surging waves from the sea, and he's the one who brings down Rahab, Satan incarnate, and finally does him in. And he is the one who is crushed on Teruah. And so you can tell Dud, listen, I'm not talking to you as just another prophet who's going to share some words with you, and that's all he has, because he has no skin in the game.
I've got skin in the
game. Yeah,
I'm going to experience it.
Right. Yeah. You were my project when I was Chinook. You were my son when I was Noach. And you are my great grandson when I was Boaz, and you will be my son in your next life with Ruth. And we're going to be with you every step of the way. And this is what you're going to do. And then when the whole world besmirches you and they rape you of your dignity, and you have to endure that for 2,000 years, that after you finish the job and were true to your calling as the firstborn son of God, and the whole world creates religions that renounce you and steal what you have done, I'm going to be the guy that comes to your rescue again. I'm going to restore your dignity. I'm going to restore your name. I'm going to make it possible for you to come back to a remnant such that you can be king forevermore. And I'm going to purge them with my own sacrifice for you.
Yeah. And that's a huge point. The cult should think about that, right? Because where would we be right now without you standing up for Dope? Where would we be? We wouldn't have any of this. We wouldn't be. The world would have devolved. God would have put in no buffers.
Right.
The
world would have devolved. There wouldn't have even been the Jesus cult would not have emerged, because Doug would never have returned to fulfill Pesach. And so the whole cult of Jesus that was created to counterfeit him would have emerged. Judaism would not have emerged, because it was written to counter Paul's Jesus cult with Bar Kokhba, another false Messiah. And without that, there is without the Talmud and Rabbinic Judaism, there is no Islam, because it's the basis of the Quran. These religions don't even exist, and there's no buffer on humanity, and God has no reason to even pay attention to the earth, because there's no hope, there's no return of his son, there's no fulfillment of the Mikra. It is over. He's checked out. And the planet devolves into lifelessness. That's what happens. We're not even here to tell the story.
Yeah. You here right now, standing up for Dode, establishing Dode again for the family, is what is allowing Yahweh's plan, his timeline to progress, to come to the fulfillment that Yahweh wants to see. So.
Kevin, yesterday, you came to a profoundly astute conclusion that I don't actually agree with, but I fully appreciate the logic and the character that delivered it and the merit of it. You came to the conclusion, listening to the two ways you can translate Isaiah 17:4, followed by Isaiah 17:5, and you said that's not how I read it. I read it as, yeah, it takes you, and then you come back for us a year later. And the reason I read it this way is it gives us the opportunity to prove our mettle. It gives us the opportunity to grow, to shine, to show that we have what it takes to answer the call and to grow so that we're prepared for what comes afterward. And my response to you at the time was, it is the best possible outcome for everybody. Best possible outcome for myself, for you, and for God's people. Probably the best outcome even for God. It is absolutely makes perfect sense. I don't think it's going to play out that way, but man, do I understand the merit of it.
Oh,
and
we're all
I
hoping
think,
it doesn't play out that way.
yes, and but it is absolute genius which you came to, you've probably seen my posts since where I say,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I understand. I like the reasoning. I think it was profoundly astute, and I see the benefits, and the benefits are overwhelming, and I don't see a single negative associated with that scenario, because I think that the core team is prepared. And I think there is a group underneath the core team that wants to be prepared. And I think it puts everybody in a position where they really have a chance to show what they're made of. And so I happen to like it. And I've shared it with you, even though I said I don't think it's going to play out that way. But, right. This is not my call. I think somebody said yesterday, you have the ability to have discussions with, you can negotiate with them. Do you think you can negotiate? That was for coming back during that first 3.5 years to continue to work rather than just spending the time in Shamaim. And what I said was, no, that's not my pay grade. Yeah, no. I mean, we have lovely discussions. It's mostly sarcastic, and a young man, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to do it this way. And I say, okay, sir, we're going to do it that way. I'm pretty adept at recognizing the difference between our relative intellect and our happy to serve, delighted to serve. So that's my understanding of what I think is the most pivotal moment, the single most pivotal moment in human history. With Ethan Haas Rocky, I came to this conclusion over the last few months, but actually you have been dropped in at 70 years old for this purpose, and this is what you wrote, and this was how it played out, 15 to 30 minutes before this show. You've been uncommonly quiet, and I know that part of that is because this was Noah's opportunity to be a co-host on the show, and you're very kind and gentlemanly in that regard. But you're a very bright, well-read man with character. What's your first impression of what we've been talking about?
Well, just continuing our conversation along with we identifying the three so-called choke points where life on Earth set on a razor's edge, right? I mean, we have Noah, okay,
right.
and then we have the Ethan has Rocky moment, and then this upcoming, the upcoming harvest. That if we don't show up and do what needs to be done, then the whole Yahweh's human experiment was like, okay, we move on to the next one, and too bad for us. So
all three of them.
I like that you kind of have on the air gone back and talked about what we talked about yesterday, as far as you don't think things are going to turn out that way. I don't think they're going to, I don't think they're going to turn out that way either, with you going first and then coming back, because it took some phone calls yesterday, talked to some people, and there was some angst out there. What are we going to do? What are we going to, and my whole, and talking to them was saying that that doesn't change our relationship with Yahweh. You know, the relationship is not through Craig Wynn, right?
No,
The
it is not.
relationship is with Yahweh.
Right.
Okay. So we just show up and continue business as usual, you know, what he wants done. What Kirk and I talked about the not quite standing grain harvest club, you know, is what we were going to start.
Not quite ready yet.
Yeah.
But
You know?
when Yahweh moved Dode out of the garden,
Mhm.
it wasn't because he gave up on him. It was because he knew that by exposing him and putting him out on his own, he would have a chance of growing up and demonstrating that he was worth trusting. He was worth
Right.
knowing. He was going to develop into a character that was interesting. And if it played out your way, it would be the same. And it doesn't mean that everybody who is, of the 150 who have signed on to yada.com, or the many thousands who are followers of those social media sites before we left them, are going to make the cut. It doesn't mean that at all. And it doesn't mean that that what God is doing through me wouldn't be missed, and that I've become a pretty good student and a pretty good teacher, and I think a reasonable exemplar of what we're supposed to do, and I'm helping to advance our knowledge of what God expects. But I think I've taken it more than far enough for the likes of you, for example, or Rich here to manage a year, making tremendous progress, working with the likes of Joe, for example, on the site. I think there are enough genuine, solid individuals, and while there's 20 or 30 names I could rattle off right now, I'm not going to, because if I do, sure as heck I'm going to forget 5 to 10 that I should have said, and that's not fair. So I'm not going to do that. But people down inside know who they are.
Yeah.
That I think that every single one of those individuals would not only rise to the occasion, but would surprise themselves as to how much they had to give and could give under those circumstances, and would be renewed and excited for the opportunity, and would make great progress and would mature and would go into Shamaim looking Yahweh in the eye and say, I thank you for that opportunity. We did good, didn't we?
Yeah.
And I think the
absolutely.
sense of satisfaction for eternity like that would be absolutely spectacular. So I happen to think it's a great idea.
And isn't that the way that Yahweh would like to work too? You know,
it is so. It's like anything that you hear that is exactly like Yahweh would like to work, and you say, I think that's actually grand.
pretty good idea.
Makes perfect sense to me. Completely resonates with me. But the only evidence I have for it is a unique insight into Yashaya 17 that is a very different kind of insight into it. And that's probably not enough for me to say I'm going to endorse this, but I am going to speak about it because I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
So I guess your answer on the other, which was my question today, is your impressions of these conclusions on Ethan Hajraki and his name and how he plays into the story of Chinook and Noach and Boaz before him, and Boaz after him, and now Yada as the final Saroa and the Nakar and the Choder. I'm exceedingly comfortable with this conclusion. I'm also totally open to somebody saying, I don't think that's it. But the key thing for me is always, does it resonate, and is it consistent with Yahweh as I know him? And is it consistent with the character and the personality of the soul that he is deploying, which I've come to know pretty well? And then, is there anything that speaks against it? And is there anything that indicates in favor? And the only thing that speaks against it was that genealogy of Ethan from a father named Zeraki, but that ain't the same fella. Not even one chance in a billion, billion, billion. That is the same fella. And so now, when you know that that's all you got nothing. And
Right.
now we have a man who co-authored the single most important piece of literature since the Torah, and delivered it to Dode, and wrote the mashal, and stood off to the side to let his wife speak to Dode as a mother, and then all of the connections to Ruth and to Leah, and throughout the story through Boaz and what he would represent, all fits like a glove, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And I am so much more comfortable with the insertions from Yah's perspective, from the way I would expect Yah to be, than I am with folks. I understand it may become necessary from time to time for someone to be born and then to grow into a role or something. I
Yes,
get
I
that, but
do.
I am so much more comfortable with the insertions. I mean,
Yes, I am too.
Hosha's story where Yah he says, you're gonna go, not necessarily volitional, okay? You're gonna go
Yes.
marry a temple prostitute, you're gonna have children. These are gonna be the children, so that when I speak through you, that you understand where I'm coming from. There are
Right.
those times when it fits to have those growing pain, type
Moments.
of understandings. Yeah. But overall, it just seems so unnecessary to have someone live a life to be there for
Right.
that small span, but
Right.
the pop in, pop out, I'm on board with those. Those fit
Right.
my understanding, my preference, if anyone's
Yep.
listening, more than anything
Right.
else. So
I have no problem, for example, with Boaz and Ruth arriving as young adults to give birth to Dode in 1 or 2 BCE. There is
yes,
just
yeah.
no reason for them to have had to have hung around and somehow found each other 15 or 20 years prior to that.
Right.
There is no chance that they came
In
in.
Roman occupied Jerusalem, I mean, who's going to put
Right.
somebody through that?
Why?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? And
Right.
there would be no reason for them to hang around even a day after it's all fulfilled. It's done. They did it. That was what needed to be done, and it's the job's complete. I think the same thing is true with Dode and El Dode and my Dode. Same thing is true with Gabriel and with Makael. And I
Yeah.
think
Well, those are the preeminent, the ones that really display that idea that they can pop in and pop out as, Mikael, and those are for sure the model for that,
right. There was no reason for them to be a pop out for Chinook 1 or 2. And the Chinook 1, as the son of Cain, is there to build a sanctuary, a protected place, that now that that Adam as Dode was released from the garden, he still had to have a protective place with family, and that's what Chinook provided in the community that was called Chinook. And then once he does that as Adam's grandson, he comes back as Chinook too, and he fills in and supports Dode as a descendant of Adam for the rest of his life, and gives Yahweh the opportunity to showcase the in and out, where he took him out, and he took him out and told us about him for a reason. And
early on,
yeah, then it's such an important point at the choke point of the human experience, with man becoming many and becoming so rotten, that the story of Noach is one of the 3 great pivot points where all of humanity could be lost. God even said so. I regret having created them. I made a mistake, and I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done it. And at that point, he had Chinook with him, and I don't know how they worked it out. I know because obviously there's a conversation, and Chinook says, "No, I've seen with Dote there is potential. You've seen it with me that there is potential. Let's go back at it.
Right.
Let's go back. Let's make a grand story of this, and let's live by example. I'll live the whole long life. I'll do the whole thing. We'll build the boat, and you're going to take me all the way from that long life all the way up to the affirmation of the covenant with Abraham and Yishak. We've seen how it all plays out up to that point. Let's go do this together. We'll make this work." And I think it's actually at that point, it is a soul of a man now taken up to the seventh dimension, having a conversation with God and saying, you wanted to be consoled over creating man. Well, here I am. Dode's up here with you too. Come on. We can resolve this. Let's work together. Let's give it the time. Let's give it the opportunity. I think it is a place where there probably was negotiation. And I think that again, when Boaz is finished that marvelous life in Bethlehem with Ruth, and he's now up in Shamaim with Yahweh, and he's watching his great-grandson Dode screw up miserably and knows that this is the hope of the world. You wonder how often throughout those 10 terrible stumbles that Dode had from 30 to 50 and maybe 55. How many of those times do you think that Boaz said, "Come on, he's our kid. He's family. I've been there. I've gotten him together before. We can't let this continue to tumble out of because it's spiraling in a death spiral. You need to put me in. We need to go." And I actually think it probably was Boaz saying, let me go and fix this now before it gets any worse. And Yahweh says, no, patience. Right. It's going to work out. I'm going to give you, we're going to have the ultimate weapon in the 89th Mizmor. We're going to get this done. And I don't know if they negotiated it or talked about the timing as how far they would let Dode go before they intervened. But I think that was also a discussion. And I'm not so sure that the soul of Boaz, now inserted as Ethan Izraki, didn't get to share his thoughts on it too. You would expect him. At that point, he's earned the right to speak.
Absolutely. And the entire covenant is volitional. So, I mean, that's what separates us, okay, as from, there's the idea of cherub, cherubim, malak, and Saba. Okay, the Saba don't have a choice, and right. We can still be malak as covenant, right? We can still be messengers,
witness.
But
yeah,
we can. We're not cherubim. We're not cherubim. We're not Saba. We're not part of that, no choice hierarchical organization. So,
right.
So in order for it to be volitional, we have to have those conversations. We have to have those agreements. Yeah.
Okay, I would say though that while that's all true, and I celebrate that, I think there are self-imposed constraints on free will. I have imposed constraints on my own free will. When someone said yesterday, well, we had that conversation with Will, who I really respect. I think Will's very, very bright. What a great man and character. When we had that conversation, and I think it was during the show, he says, you have the right to negotiate with God. You have His ear on this, and you want to come back during that 3.5 years. He will probably listen to you. And I said, no, I'm not going to. I mean, I'm going to say this is what I want, and I'm going to plead my case, and then we're going to do what He wants. That's just it. We're not going to have an argument. He would be disappointed if I didn't plead my case and say this, because I've got a lot vested in this. But he also knows that he is going to make the decision as to what he thinks is best in this case. And there are a lot of things that are pluses and minuses of that deployment. And we have a lot on the line, and he is going to make that call. I'm not going to try to persuade him. I'll share this as my thoughts, and then when he says this is what we're going to do, when I had the last conversation with God on how we were going to respond 18 months ago, 19 months ago now, he said this is what I want, and my only, I think, response on the whole thing was, you want to go back to the menorah as your symbol. We're in different times. I think that the old style of menorah is going to look too religious. I think it's going to give the wrong look here. Listen, I'm not saying no to the menorah. I love the menorah. We'll go with the menorah, but don't you think we should do a modern menorah and a modern interpretation of it? He says, of course. And so was I negotiating, or was I just pointing out something that we had already both agreed to, or that he had agreed to, and I was just acknowledging what he had agreed to? That's about as far as I'll ever push it. And now in this life, I very much view myself as not a person exercising free will, as a person doing what they've been asked to do. And I'm much more comfortable with that than I am in any other role. I think you can freely give up your free will. You can choose to say, I'm going to do what you want because I want to do what you want. And then you're in this particular role, I think it's much more comfortable.
Well, those are the best relationships, where you get that synergy of, hey, it's not compromise. It's working better for both of us if it works out this way. Yeah.
You're a lot smarter than I am. Wiser, more mature. Let's do it your way. I'm happy to do it your way. I would feel really miserable if we went off and did it my way and it didn't work. And right. The way you are, whether you share credit, if we do everything your way, I'm still going to get more credit than I'm comfortable with anyway. Right. So let's just do it your way. Okay. Mm-hmm. We'll go where your words lead. That's the way we're going to do it. Now, the reason I bring that up is that when Chinook's in Shamaim and they're talking about the insertion as Noach, which is the same, by the way, same name again. It's a guide who has been prepared as an explorer. It's the same name as Chinook. It's the same name as Ethan Hazraki. It's the same undercurrent all the way through. In fact, it's even spelled such that the first two letters are reversed in order. So rather than protecting the sun, you're the sun who protects. But I think as Chinook, looking down and seeing the mess and talking to Yahweh about how we're going to resolve this, Chinook's up there in the seventh dimension. He's pretty much expanded intellect. At that point, God is listening to what we have to say when we're seven dimensions, and he has empowered and enriched us to that point. When we reduce us back to three dimensions and puts us inside of a physical body, I think we're just better off saying, yes, sir. I think your plan is a good plan. Well, you lay it out, and I will follow those directions. And then when we are elevated again to the seventh dimension, I think we have God's ear. So in three dimensions now, yes, sir. I think that's a good idea. We'll do it that way. When Ethan Hazraki as Boaz was up there with Yahweh and looking down at our collective son, I think he absolutely had the opportunity to express what he thought was right on the timing and how they go about it. And obviously he would acquiesce to Yahweh's final decision. But then when he came down and was in three dimensions, he just carried out the marching orders. This is what needs to be done. And so I think that in this life now that I'm living, because I had a full life, God is making the point that it was possible. That it is possible for a person to listen to him, to recover from prior mistakes of being religious and political, of having lousy parents. It is possible to overcome that. And it's possible to overcome all other obstacles and challenges, and to make mistakes and to learn from them, and to become tough and resilient because life is a challenge. That the very thing God was always looking for us to do, I think he wanted to demonstrate it was possible to do. And so I think this life is just that. It's proof positive. It was possible. And we can earn God's trust, and we can do what he wants done, and we can be pleased with what we accomplish together. Now, the next one, when I'm inserted as an adult, we're not playing on the same field anymore. Yeah, you're going back down as a three-dimensional person, but with full knowledge of what it was like in the seventh dimension, and you don't have to go through all of that again. You can say, I did that. You can look at that life. You can see the result of it. I wrote all about it. But we're in the here and now, and this is what I have to tell you. I like that. I like the fact that God can do it both ways and has done it both ways, and that both work and they fit the circumstance. And with Dode at the most pivotal of those three moments of human history, he sent in a full-grown adult with full knowledge of everything on earth and everything in heaven.
Yahweh wasn't fooling around. He needed to get the point across to Dode right away.
That's why those 30 mashal, which is 40 pages, could have easily have been written in 4 days. And you come down, you grab some parchment and a pen, and you write them out. This is what it's like to be the son of the Almighty. This is who you are and what is expected of you. You write it all out. You've already come back. You've already come down with the 89th Mizmor that was written in collaboration in Shamma'im, where you could see the future and how it was all going to play out. And you knew that at that point you were going to prevail, and you get to recite it. I think that's the way it played out. I think it makes perfect sense for Yahweh to do it that way.
Yeah, it does.
So, Kevin, once again, we never did get to the news. We have now 2 vlogs on the blog without the blog.
Right. That's all right. I think we made some hay today. Definitely productive. Absolutely wonderful having Noah on and hearing his story and everything.
I agree.
His input for sure.
It was fun having Will on yesterday, and the conversation we had yesterday obviously hit a lot of nerves, didn't it?
Yes.
I mean, it was the kind of conversation where a lot of people were listening to it and doing what you should always do. Anytime that somebody is talking about something God says, they should always apply it directly to themselves. I've been saying that for now 25 years. That if you see me applying something God says to myself, you should look at that as an exemplar of what you should do. And you should also try to apply it to yourself, because God's not going to be any different with you than he is with me. Apply it to yourselves. And that's what everybody was doing, I guess, when they picked up the phone or started communicating with you, is saying, whoa, boy, are we ready for this?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's a lot of interest, obviously, in Shabua and how it's all going to play out. And
yes, there is.
The fact is that we're just not given that information. So, of course, a lot of interest in trying to speculate what exactly is going to happen. Yeah,
so. And there is comfort for everybody knowing that ultimately the burden on trying to figure it out, and the target of what happens if you're wrong, or just if you're saying things that irritate the conspiratorial, the religious, and the political, that I'm the target. And so I serve as the shield, and that I bear the burden of responsibility, and that everybody else has opportunity. And so me being here provides cover. It provides inspiration and cover. And I bear the load. So that's part of the consternation that would happen immediately if I'm gone. But I don't think it would be even an hour or so, and everybody say, okay, well, this is what we expected. Let's get her done. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
I'm understand that Rich has come to me and said, listen, I want you to know that if I'm asked or given the opportunity to stay behind, that's my preference. He says, she said, listen, I want a new body in the worst way. And I'm looking forward to going to Shamma'im, but I'm committed to this. I know what God wants, and I'm here to deliver. And if given the opportunity to stay behind and help more people come to knowledge of Yahweh, you count me in. I'm ready to go.
Well, if you think about it,
have I quoted you correctly, Rich?
Yeah, and I don't like most people.
And Rich says I don't even like most people. And yet,
if you think about it, though, that's exactly what would be needed on that end of things. You would need a Rich, a Perry, a Joe,
right?
A
Yes,
Kevin.
You do.
Yeah, you need
and a
that
Joe
on your end. Yeah,
you do.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. Leah is super involved in creating the branding and the imagery. Fortunately, I think she has a team now that's trained, but Leah could not be left on her own. She does not do well on her own. So she obviously could not be left.
Well, you guys work better as a team. You guys work better in pairs.
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
So that's
It's
the
true.
way it should be.
It's true. So but we will see. We only have 10 more days.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I think if it were to happen that way, I would be like Boaz with Yahweh and say, okay. Are you sure about this? Are you? Can we go back now?
Right.
Yeah. Those are my kids down there. From a covenant point of view, those are my kids. And I think I can help them. I think they're okay. Put me back in now. I want to go.
Right.
I just think I'd be a nervous Nilly through the whole thing, and God having to say, we decided on this and doing it for a reason. It's the right thing to do, and it's for their benefit. It really is for their benefit. They're gonna be as proud as you are of how this works out, and they deserve that opportunity.
Yeah.
So
and just to go back real quick.
Go sit down. Go and relax. You wanted a vacation. You got a vacation. Go and relax. And by the way, those books that you've written, they could use some enhancement. Go get them. Go correct them. Go improve them. Go finish your books, and enjoy Shamma'im for a while. And a year's not a very long time. It'll come fast. If it's bothering you, don't look.
Just to go back to what we were talking about real quick, inserting versus living a life. Yahweh wants us to learn and experience things that we learn in real life. And you could easily see or say that maybe sometimes if the timing allows, he's much more interested in inserting someone to live a life and learn what they need to learn to fulfill that role versus inserting them in and doing the job. So you could see maybe how he inserted Noach, and Noach, we don't really know, but he could have been learning about wood, about boat. He could have been learning, right? And so we just don't know.
Noach clearly had the whole life. We have his pedigree, so he had the whole life. Ethan did not, which is why we don't have his pedigree. And the same thing is true with Eldod, Mydod, Mikael, and Gabriel. And the same thing's going to be true in the end with the final Zeroah as Yada and with Elia. There is another reason, and I've hinted at this, but there is another reason for the full life, for Chanukh to have had a full life, for Noach to have a full life, and to have that life under a microscope for us to see, for Boaz to have a full life, and for Dod to have a full life, for Noach to have a full life. The reason for that, and for this role now, and reacquainting the world with Dod and with Yahweh, the advantage of the full life is that God gets proof, and we get to provide evidence that we humans with the Nasalma can measure up. We can fulfill the original mandate for us to be good explorer companions, that we can be trusted to be empowered and enriched to go off and explore the universe with Yahweh and be great conversationalists and be trusted not to do things that are stupid, and that when we make mistakes, we can correct them. And so the full life gives us the opportunity, without God having to cheat in any way, to say, yes,
Prove that.
humankind was worth the experiment. Toad came through in the end. These men and women came through in the end. It's a proof statement. And I think that the proof statements are really important with God. And the second is exemplars. Yahweh sets Dode with all of his failures up as an exemplar because he managed to turn tremendous failures into tremendous, overwhelming successes. And so God wants to set that up as an exemplar. And so as a full life, we have an exemplar. We do not have an exemplar in Mydode and Mecca-El or in Ethan Haas Rocky. We have lessons, but we don't have an example. We don't have someone who says, I can do that. I want to have that same opportunity. Anybody can do what I have done in this life. Given the devotion, the want to, anybody can do it. And so this is an example of what can be done. Anybody given the opportunity could do what Noah did. We're capable of doing those. We're capable of doing those things, and those people serve as marvelous examples to us. So I think the exemplar part is why you have the full life.
That's a good point.
By the time that Elia and I come back as witnesses, we're not there to be examples.
Yeah,
we're there to. This is it.
One
side or the other. Get out of the way if you're not part of the solution. And here's the final offer that God is making. Choose.
I think those are great reasons why he would want somebody to live a full life. Yeah, those are good examples of that.
Yeah, it's a marvelous story, well told by a brilliant creator and God, who has created this marvelous opportunity for us and an even greater tomorrow for us to capitalize upon. And I feel privileged, honored, proud to be able to share it. And lovely to have such great family and support, and knowing that we are living examples of exactly what God is seeking from us. So thank you. I think it's nice that you didn't hit the timer. I know we've gone well over an hour in this conversation, but that's okay. That's one of the beauties of this whole vlog setup, is that we can have open discussions about what we're learning at the moment. And in this whole process, we are have the advantage of now having built on, in this life, 25 years of learning and discovery and thinking and making the connections to understand, such that the last 6 months to a year has been exponential in terms of what we've come to comprehend. And with this format, we can share that at real time. And with the website, the way it has been made interactive,
it feedback.
Everybody can not just feedback, but communication within the family, and a legacy of the merit of these kinds of things. And we can explore these discussions with family, which is why it's so great that you're here, Noah. And I'm delighted that your internet actually worked out well for us, and we were able to do this. And
so am I.
It turned out beautifully. We'll do it again.
You brought up a great point there. Like I said, I've been with you for a long time, and just this last year, the amount of information and the amount of teaching and guidance, you said exponentially. I mean, it's blown up to just massive scale.
I would say the last year has been
extraordinary.
Probably a multiple of what we learned in the previous 24 years.
Oh,
and the last 6 months has been a multiple of what we've learned in this the last year. It is really it's an exponential curve that we're upon, and I just think it's marvelous. It's my only frustration now is to try to encapsulate the most recent learning into a cogent written presentation as part of the Coming Home series. And that's why as soon as we finish with this, I'm going to go right back to it and try to continue it. And we're going to do our best to get that done too. Noah, it's lovely to have you with us. Thank you, Kevin, for doing this with us. We'll look forward to doing another vlog on the blog tomorrow, and it would be honored to have you back on another occasion. Noah, you represented the covenant brilliantly.
Sorry, I lost.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch y'all on our next podcast.